Ladies and gentlemen of the Bitcoin jury, welcome back to the channel. Today, I have some very interesting stuff to share with you. This is not going to take long at all. This is going to be some Bitcoin specific information that you need to follow whether you're in Bitcoin or something else, because all the other charts are following Bitcoin right now for the most part. So we're going to look at this and I'm going to show you a few things that I've been waiting months to see. And because I'm seeing these now, it is really starting to get me to think that we are in that last phase of the calm before the storm, and Bitcoin is going to trend up very, very soon. Now, could there be a little more downside before this happens? It's possible, but the overall metrics I'm seeing are giving me a very clear picture, so let's take a look. All right, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. The buttons are right down there. Just go ahead and click them. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I want to show you here on the Bitcoin chart, this is the 4-hour chart. We are looking at the symmetrical triangle we had been following for a while, and basically it's been invalidated now. We have moved forward and continued sideways, but what we have basically done now is we have put in a larger symmetrical triangle. So we're going to get rid of the previous one, and we're going to be looking at this one. We've adjusted the line at the top to go from candle bodies all the way down to the candle wick top we just had. And then we have adjusted the bottom to go right from the candle wick bottoms all the way across to give us a nice, equilateral looking triangle here to show us some support and resistance levels. So resistance right now where we are would be at around 37,500 and support should lie at around 34,300. So keep an eye on those levels. We want to see us maintaining this, and we are really looking for something to happen between June the 5th and June the 7th. And if we look at the calendar, June the 5th is Saturday, June the 7th is Monday. So sometime by next Monday, we'd like to see some activity, whether it's downside or upside. We want to see us break through this triangle, and I'm really starting to think that it's going to be an upward break. And it could continue with more consolidation, make this triangle bigger, but I'm definitely assuming that we're going to be breaking out of this at some point soon, and I'm going to show you why. So the first thing I want to show you are some metrics that I've been looking at that look super interesting. All right, so if we're going to the 4-hour chart, we're basically using this to follow the symmetrical triangle. That's all well and dandy. We're going to go over to the daily chart. Okay, so now on the daily chart, the first thing that we see here, okay, look at the bottom, you're starting to see the MACD flip green. This is a pretty big thing, because with the MACD, I'm gonna maximize this MACD. With the MACD starting to put in green candles here, this is showing a shift in momentum. This is showing that momentum is now shifting to the upside. And if you look back here, after these major drops, we tend to have some areas where we have major bullish momentum. So having some major bullish momentum here could be very interesting. It could take the price up to some levels that we thought we weren't going to see for a while. Now, if we go on to the weekly and monthly chart, that's when things get really interesting. So for the weekly chart, the first thing that we see here, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that symmetrical triangle. The first thing that we see on the weekly chart is that the TD sequential, which is what's showing us these red numbers and green numbers, is at a red 8. Now, why is that interesting? Well, because a red 9 is a very bullish signal. A red 9 is basically telling us that we are oversold to the downside, that the price has moved down to a point now where it's ready to start shifting back to the bullish side. Now, since we're seeing that, what I would expect if this continues to happen is on the weekly chart, we would start seeing in the next few weeks smaller red candles as the price starts shifting to more bullish momentum. Now, there's no reason that we don't have a few weeks of what we saw here, a little bit of bullish momentum, a little bit of bearish momentum, until we consolidate and then have a big move. Maybe something like what we saw in this consolidation, right? We saw some bullish candles, then we tapered, and we went through like a full month, maybe longer than that, like 2-3 months of consolidation at around the 10K level before we had a massive move. Now, the fact that we are seeing a red 8 means that if the price doesn't shift too much and it stays consolidating for the next 2 weeks, we might close next week's candle with a red 9, giving us a major buy signal on the weekly, which is incredibly bullish. So we want to keep that in mind, that this is only about a week out from happening, about a week and a half, because there's 5 days left on the current candle, and then we're going to start the next one. So this you really need to be watching. This is a huge indicator that many people follow. If this flashes a red 9, people are going to be getting very bullish very quick. Next, we are going over to the monthly chart. Now, the monthly chart is showing us something that is looking the most bullish that I've ever seen it. So you see this green 9 on the TD sequential. This happened in the month of December. The green 9 is actually a bearish signal. That's telling us that the price has become overextended. But in a bull market, the fundamentals change. Or I'm sorry, not the fundamentals, but the technicals change in a bull market. So even though we got a green 9 here, the price kept moving up and it hit a top. Then when it hit a top and started trending down, you start seeing these pink candles. These pink candles were telling us that the price is still overextended. Now what's happened is, in the last month, we dropped down enough so the current monthly candle is now showing a red 1. And what this means is that the TD sequential has finally reset. This could mean a little bit of consolidation, maybe anywhere from 40,000 down to 32,000. We consolidate within this range for another month, maybe 2. I know that sounds like a long time, but it may not even be that long because honestly, we already have the red 1. So what that means is we can start a full new uptrend going all the way up to these green numbers and going green 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that could take the price well above 60,000, well above 70 or even 80,000. So could it consolidate for a month or two and give us like a red 2 and a red 3? Yeah, it's possible. Or this could simply be the start. We have a slow consolidation month, or we start pumping back up to 45, maybe 50K this month, and then these candles start moving in an upward direction again, and we shatter this previous all-time high of around 64,000. It's a big possibility. This indication tells me that there's a lot more room to move now. While we were still so overextended on this TD sequential on the monthly, it was just a matter of time before we dropped and reset it, and we have finally reset it. Major signal here. This is very, very important. Keep your eye on the weekly and monthly chart and look at those metrics I just showed you. They are going to get incredibly important. Also, look at the 4-hour chart and keep an eye on that symmetrical triangle so you have an idea of if we're going to look like we're breaking out of this sooner than later. And what could happen here is we could have a drop a little bit further and then a pump a little bit further, and that will just extend this triangle even further, and it could take us all the way to the end of the month. It's a possibility, so there might still be good opportunities to buy as we continue this continuation or consolidation pattern. All right, next thing we're going to look at is Glassnode. And with Glassnode, there's a few things I want to show you. I already have this chart up. I'm going to switch us over to the full screen mode so you can see it a little bit better. Now in this full screen mode, what you're seeing here is the net transfer volume from and to exchanges. I'm on a 24-hour resolution on Glassnode, so I have the latest 24 hours of data, right? Tomorrow, I'll have today's data. So right now, we have all of May 31st included. So now when we look at this, basically what we are seeing is that we had the crash and we had net inflows. We had a lot of Bitcoin going onto exchanges. After those pumps, as the price dropped, we started having net outflows. We started to have more Bitcoin leaving exchanges than was coming onto exchanges. Continued like that for a while, all the way until May 24th, with a slight shift in the upward direction. Over the 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, and 29th, we started to see net inflows, but it wasn't very high. So we started to see more Bitcoin going onto exchanges compared to the amount that was leaving, but the amount going down, or the amount going onto exchanges, was still not super high. So it wasn't very concerning. It gets concerning when it starts reaching these massive levels, because this indicates you might have, a lot of downward price momentum, but the levels that we saw since like the 21st looked like typical consolidation or trading volumes, and it just looked very normal. Now what we're seeing is that we are starting to go back into net outflows. That means we're starting to have more Bitcoin leaving exchanges than is coming onto exchanges. That's a bullish signal. It also tends to tell you when you've hit a bottom. So what I want to see over the next few days is I want to see that this trend line keeps trending down and we keep seeing more net outflows, more people buying, accumulating, taking it off exchanges. If we look at a couple of other things here, we're going to look at just the base figures. So this is the inflow volume, and I'm actually going to switch this over to a bar chart so that it's a little easier for you to read. And basically what you can see on this bar chart, this is the total amount of Bitcoin going onto exchanges. So it's similar to where the metrics are coming from in the last chart I showed you. And basically what you're seeing during the crash, you had massive inflows. Since then, it has been completely trending down, and we are still heading in that downward trending direction. So we want to keep an eye on this and make sure we don't have any peaks that go above the levels that we saw when price really crashed. So far, not seeing any indication of a crash. Someone else posted something on Twitter from CryptoQuant that looked like we were having massive inflows. I did a little digging on that, and to me, it seems like that was exchange to exchange transfers, maybe transferring money onto major wallets within exchanges. It's possible that's what that was. I'm not seeing any indication of major inflows yet coming off of Glassnode. So far, Glassnode is supporting that we are looking very strong and very bullish. If we go to the outflow volume, Bitcoin leaving exchanges looks very similar. So it's showing us that a lot of the Bitcoin that came onto exchanges was likely sold during the crash, and then people have started accumulating at lower prices, and now we are seeing Bitcoin leaving exchanges. We look at the addresses with a balance of one or more Bitcoin, and you can see that that is trending up. If you were to draw a line from the top of these peaks all the way down, what would happen is that the current volume of people buying one or more Bitcoin, the addresses holding one or more Bitcoin, is starting to trend out. It's breaking out of the pattern that was here, moving downwards. Okay, so that's very key. The fact that this pattern is changing is incredibly, incredibly bullish. We see very similar type of stuff when we look at even the people holding 10 Bitcoin. This is starting to trend up again since the crash. People have been accumulating at these levels. You go to 1K Bitcoin, and granted, this is never going to look as good, but you're definitely starting to see accumulation occurring at these levels too, right? It is happening. It's not happening as majorly as it did when we were at like 50K, but it is happening. And we're likely, once we see that bullish momentum come back in and price starts going up and people aren't scared, then you're going to see these numbers start going up significantly, and people are going to be buying as much as they can when they see that the bullish sentiment has returned to the market. Keep that in mind. If we even look at addresses with a non-zero balance, you will see that those took a dip during the entire drop. They're still typically dipping. So what you're seeing is people that are buying already hold at least one Bitcoin, right? Even if you look at people with 0.1 Bitcoin, you're seeing something very similar. Those numbers have started going up during this dip. They are trending up. So that means that the people with non-zero balance, like people that just have any Bitcoin at all, that's going down. But the people that have bought at least 0.1 or 1 Bitcoin or 10 Bitcoin, those are all trending up. Accumulators are buying more. The shorter term investors were the ones who were selling. Very, very important thing to remember. It supports the fact that right now the bullish signals we're getting on the charts are being supported by the on-chain metrics. And when we see those two in confluence, that's an indication that we may not have just reached a bottom, but we may be getting ready for a shift back into that bullish momentum. And we're also seeing the MACD is supporting that. The daily and weekly charts are supporting that. And so far, none of this data is showing me anything bearish. Once I have some bearish data, I will tell you. Right now, I'm not seeing it. Everything I'm seeing is telling me that we have either bottomed out or we might have dips that are going to be bought very fast. So let's say that Bitcoin takes a dip down to 25K. I expect that to get bought up very, very quickly. The people that are accumulating are doing it at 32, 33, 35, 36,000. If it goes down to 25, they are going to accumulate in large numbers. People that want to buy Bitcoin cheap are going to buy it. So I really am not worried about any more drops. If anything, as I start building more cash reserves to buy more Bitcoin, I will be choosing some prices that may be a bit lower in case we have those drops that are so quick that the only way you're going to get to buy that cheap Bitcoin is if you have a buy order already. Like, you may not have time to do it on spot. It could be a 10-minute drop and then the price goes up. By the time you log on to buy, it's done and over. So those are the main key things that I'm seeing right now, and I think these are all very, very important. We're going to wrap up the day just by looking at the log chart. Okay, so what I'm going to do on this Bitcoin chart is I'm going to switch over to the log view. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the symmetrical triangle. I'm going to put in these regression lines that we were looking at along with a price prediction that I'd put in a while ago. And we're going to switch this over to the daily so we can get a better look at it. Okay, so these regression lines are basically following the log chart and are showing us where we're looking at resistance and support. And you can see that my prediction here was that we continue to trade sideways for at least the next month, or at least the next half a month, like till mid-June. And then we start trending up and hitting the upper bounds of this trend line. That would put us to about 46,000 by June 21st. I still think this holds pretty valid. Granted, we haven't followed it perfectly, but we are still trading within this channel. The interesting thing about these lines is they don't look super bullish, right? But this is a log chart. Everything has been accounted for by percentage scale. So what that means is that this trend line is actually a lot more bullish than it looks, because even if we get right here, this is 55,000 by July. So if we're basically trading here and consolidating in this bottom channel and we manage to maintain this channel, then as we're going up, getting back into this upward channel by even August puts us at 70K as we start reaching these upper levels. So right now, looking at this log chart is very, very interesting, especially because if you go back historically, I started this since the March crash, and we have traded between these channels the entire time. And right now we're at the bottom of that. So the most bearish thing I can think of right now is if we fall below the bottom of this channel, and that is around 32 to 36K. Now, if we fall, that is around 32,000 right now. So if we fall below 32K right now on the log chart, that's going to be very bearish. And that's also going to show us that we may have more downward momentum. But if we fall below that 32K level and it gets bought up really fast and we get back into this trading channel, nothing changes. Those kind of drops, they don't matter, because that means that accumulators were waiting to buy. When you have people buying at a discount and they're buying up all the supply, that is not a bearish thing. That is a very, very bullish thing. It means that people want to buy Bitcoin cheap. Keep an eye on this. The regression chart is looking really good right now. We're going to keep coming back to this regression chart and keeping an eye on these trading channels. What I want to see us do is consolidate in this trading channel, making our tops much higher, meaning that once we get back to the top of this line, even if it is in 2 weeks, that's going to put us at the $45,000 to $47,000 mark. And then when we actually break out of this, we're going to be going right back into 50 to 65,000, and that's going to put us back in a very bullish phase for us to go all the way to the top of this chart towards the end of the bull run, which could be anywhere from 150,000 or even higher. It depends how long the bull run lasts. If the bull run lasts all the way through 2022, as some people are predicting, then this regression chart lets us get as high as 269 to maybe even 300,000 US dollars in price for Bitcoin if it continues its consolidation and then trends up, even with a few drops in between. This may not be close to over. Keep everything in mind. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. I will catch you next time. Peace.